Hello, everybody. Welcome to MSP Unplugged Tech Talk Tuesday. Talking about automation today. I'm your host, Rick Smith. This is the place to learn tips, tricks, and strategies to help you grow your IT service business. Whether you're a one-person shop or leading a bigger house for the journey, this is the place for you. Let me introduce to you my co-host, the one, the only, Mr. Paco Lebron. How are you today, Mr. Lebron?
I am not a crook. I'm doing well. I cannot complain. Things are well. It is a sunny day. I put up 3/4 of my fence this past weekend, so it is a good time indeed. Because you know what that means, ladies and gentlemen? My pool is coming. And if you don't know about this story, I've shared this with Rick. It'll be a good topic to talk about at Tech on Unplugged.
Yeah, it's one of those spontaneous conversations we have. Speaking of TechCon Unplugged, before we get started here, let's give a quick shout out to our upcoming event, which, wow, is coming up very quick. We're coming up on 2 months now. It is the day of this recording is the 12th. So, wow, yeah, just about 2 months. But as you all know, you've heard us say it 100 times now, but TechCon Unplugged is September 16th to the 18th at the Hilton Rosemont, Chicago O'Hare. I'll give you the same spiel because there you will learn from like-minded business owners in panels and breakout sessions, gain key takeaways from partners and vendors in the space. And my favorite part, you get to experience those one-on-one and spontaneous group conversations where, you know, Paco says, and now I'm actually joining in on it, is where the magic happens. Tickets are $2.99, but there are some discount codes out there that can save you a few bucks. We are coming down to the end, so I do encourage you, if you're planning on coming, to go to techconunplugged.com to get your tickets. Reach out to us, or you can find it with your vendors, or in our Facebook group, you can find some discount codes. And things are coming along. Please, we encourage everyone to check the website because we do update it. We have solidified, and I'm sure Paco talked about this. I wasn't here last week, but we have solidified our pre-day show, which is on Friday, which will be a tabletop talk. A tabletop.
The official title, Rick, and I can tell you because we just made it happen. It is now known as the Incident Response Tabletop Exercise in MSP's Worst Day.
Okay, thank you, sir, because I wasn't there for that meeting, but that will be a Friday afternoon event. So we do encourage you all, if you are planning on coming. The official event kicks off Friday evening at 5, but the tabletop event will start at 1. So if you are planning on coming in, I encourage you to catch that. Come in, plan to come in either Thursday night or early Friday morning. And we'll have a little bit more on that towards the end of the show tonight. But let's get on to our topic right now, Paco. We're talking about automation. Now, for those of you who don't know, Paco and I come up with topics for the show based on a couple of things. How our week is gone. If we have a guest on, we're going to talk about something that maybe the guest specializes in or wants to talk about. Or sometimes we just make a decision based on nothing. We just decide, hey, let's talk about this. So tonight we decided to talk about automation. And in automation, we're going to talk about more so about the importance of automation. Again, we do not hold ourselves out to be the end all, know all on anything. We just tell you guys how we do things and what we've found that's helped us to improve our own businesses. And we like to share that with the audience. So with that, I'm going to let Paco start and talk about automation.
Automation in the Webster Dictionary says, no, I'm kidding. I think what Rick wanted to say was like, what topic are we going to talk about right before we go on the show? But no, this is a little prep on what we've done. So we've actually talked a lot about automation without us really knowing about it or really even acknowledging that we have, right? We went into about processes. We've talked about how that's going to be encouraged for your client experience, your customer experience, whichever term you prefer to use. And really trying to figure out what's the best way to do so, right? There's two forms of sayings that I go by in my MSP, my managed service providing business. And that is one coined by our beloved John Dubinsky, which is documentation is life, which we'll go into that hopefully in an episode soon. And automation is key. And so with automation, it always helps with several things. Obviously, it helps with the error of manual entry, error of manual process, error of manual anything, because I can tell you a manual process is meant to break. And I cannot tell you how many times we have received quite a few black eyes because of the manual processes that we had in our current practice. So automation is great when you do it right, because automation can also be a very bad day. You can go ahead and set, let's say, an automatic alert for when a client site goes down and you have 157 devices that come up and will all flow into as tickets. Could be a bad day, a lot of noise. So automation is something you have to kind of take into account. But really, when we talk about automation, is planning. What do you want to do with automation, and really providing some tangible items of what we do with our own practices, with our own businesses, on how we do some automation and actually help ourselves along with our clients with all kinds of things, whether that's onboarding, whether that's deploying a particular set of software, things of that nature. So with that being said, I will go ahead and kick off of one of the tools I love to use for my automation is my RMM installer. So we use Synchro in-house, and we've actually done quite a bit of consolidation of our tool set. But what's cool about using your RMM installer is how many times have you scheduled a remote session? You've gone ahead after you've closed the client, you got to onboard the client. You go into their client site. They told you they had 5 computers. It turns out to be 10 because they have remote laptops that they got to take with you. And you got to go into each individual one with your USB stick, or you're in a remote session and you're downloading all these installers so you can install onto your systems. Rick, are you guilty of this?
All the time.
I was hoping you'd say no, but it used to be. Exactly. So that's what it is. So what's great about the installers is that every RMM agent should have the ability of putting in additional steps inside of what you install in your installer. So in this case for Synchro, we have the ability to script our AV to install, our live thread hunting. They actually have their own checkbox to bring in our own remote software to bring inside that system, apply the patching, provide all the systems, and go from there. Now, I'm not going to go into more of the patching and the details of what's integrated, but more of how does it leverage me not having to install multiple things in the system. So what's cool is then, so on my automation system, I have it set up where we go ahead and install the Synchro RMM agent. It will then download the AV. It'll install 9.8 for all the patch for third-party patching. It will go ahead and install the remote control software. It will go ahead and enable BitLocker for a Windows PC so we can have it encrypted. We have a script that will pull the BitLocker key into the PSA. We would then go ahead and ensure that all the system software has been downloaded. So if they have third-party software, Zoom, depending on different type of things that they have set up, we'll have those all scripted out. And now you only have one installer you have to deal with. And then even better for us, we just send the link. So we have the link for specifically for that client. We go ahead and provide it to them on their onboarding. They install it on all the systems. We schedule a remote session with the user. We verify that all this junk and everything that we've are looking at the software inventory list, making sure that we don't miss any gotchas like McAfee Web Advisor was installed for whatever god awful reason. And we go ahead and make sure that we can get that all set up. So that's kind of a quick hit for us on what we do for automation. Rick, anything that you can't go without on doing some type of an automated process for whatever in your business?
Well, I what you hit on with using Synchro, because I use it as well, is perfect, right? And that is how we do a lot of them. That's how we do the final step of our onboarding. Now, part of that is I'm just going to back up a couple of steps. We automate. I am trying right now to automate everything. It is important that, let me rephrase that. I'm trying to automate as much as that can be automated. So we're working on, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about our, processes. So I'm trying to onboard a lot of those. Going back and to everyone who can hear me, I do know I am late on getting out the onboarding sheet. I promise it will be done by the end of the week. I wanted to get it done this weekend. It was my daughter's birthday. Things just got out of hand, and some of you kids, you'll understand. But a birthday ended up being a birth weekend. So anyway, but
we wish her a very happy belated birthday as well.
Yeah, thank you. My point is, again, getting back, everything I am trying to do now should be automated. So that goes to, for those of you who have CRMs and you market, you can create, depending on what it is, workflows, or what do they call them? They call something else in the others, but basically the step-by-steps that you can do, basically from when you get a lead, the contact you get from a lead, and how emails get automated out, sent to a client, and you don't necessarily have to do all of that follow-up. I'm trying, those steps are automated all the way to the point where once you get from a lead that you get an appointment with, that now you give a proposal to. So all of that should be automated. It gets automated from my CRM, then gets sent to my quoting tool, which sends a quote. That comes back. If that is right, then we create a contract. That contract comes back. That is automated now that the contract goes into Synchro. Synchro creates the customer for us, and that sets us to the part to onboard. And all of this we do, there's several different things, from our CRM point of view, a lot of that's built in there. Then we use Zapier to send the information to our quoting tool. Then our quoting tool, we use Zapier. From our quoting tool, which is Zomentum, we use that, and that sends, if the contract is signed, it now creates the customer and the estimate in Synchro, right? That estimate we now take from Synchro, create an invoice for it, make it a recurring invoice for the cost, and any for the monthly cost, and then it also creates a separate invoice, which would be the onboarding fee. So all of that is automated. Now there are a couple of, because there is not a fluid process to get from our CRM to Zapier, some things do have to be pushed along the way. So basically it is a little bit of manual process in that. But my point is, as much that can be automated is to take the onus off of the individual to do a lot of things. Because again, if you have that process down, and if you can make it all work, if you can automate it all in, you don't forget steps and things just happen. And then, so it is a matter of, hey, once a client asks for a proposal and we send it to Zomentum, there's a manual process there, right? So, but we do have a message that comes up. So whoever's responsible for that knows, hey, I got to push this over to Zomentum to get that part done. And then it picks up itself again. And then you move the client, once you get it done, once the client signs the contract, in your CRM, you move them to a customer, because they go now into a different funnel to get emails. But anyway, the point is, automation is very important. And if you are a nimble MSP, or you have very few employees, it becomes even more important, right? Because you can't do it all yourself, and then you are more prone to miss a step, forget a step. So that's why, I'm trying to do it as much as I can. And as we grow in staff, these automations will basically take, the burden off of someone else to do those things, and they can have other responsibilities rather than just being the person who, has to make sure they check every box each time down. But that is, I guess, what I say is where it starts. And then getting it to, to RM, getting the onboarding process, like you just talked about in Synchro, is the second part of it. And then the third part is what we do for alerts when things go wrong, and how do we get tickets automatically responded to, things of that nature. So that's I guess the first phase of the project, and you can handle the second. So I guess we could talk about the third now, right?
So just to kind of go back on it, right? Because we went into very specific opportunities and really trying to figure out, where do you start with automation, right? And that's the biggest thing that you want to try and figure out. And if you guys saw me looking down and to the side, I was trying to find a quote. There was a quote that Al over at CyberGuard 360 said for his MSP, and I can't find the damn quote, but it basically talked about the automation, and it said, and I thought it was great. It basically said, if it took 5 hours, 5 times, and there was something else with 5, it needs to be automated. And so if that comes to the point where you're doing that, it needs to be automated. And then the question becomes, well, how do you automate it? Whenever it comes to automation, you want to plan this out. You want to figure out a way to really figure out the point where, how do I go ahead and do the flow, right? What's the journey? What's going on, right? So exactly like what you said, Rick, we'll talk about how you have your customer journey, right? You have your sale you have your prospect into onboarding to now a fledged customer, and now you have to nurture the customer. How does that whole process work, right? So we obviously have the sales process, which has its own mechanisms that you have to go through, which sometimes it's moving it from whatever stage that they live in for that sale. And then, like you just mentioned, so depending on what your quoting tool, whatever have from there, for us, it's Momentum. It then moves into being one. When it goes from one, it will then have the integration with the automation over in Synchro. It'll populate the customer. It'll create the estimate. The estimate then gets sent out. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it creates the estimate. My flow, because I've already confirmed with the client that they've signed the agreement, it will then go ahead and grab that actual agreement or estimate. I'll convert it to an invoice and I'll send it over to them so that I can get paid. Now, instead of me following up with them for payment, I already have all of my payment processors integrated inside of Synchro. Now they have the ability to store their credit card, which is what we try to ask them for, or to go ahead and store the ACH. But what ends up happening is the moment that it goes into estimate, it then goes ahead and kicks off an email or a notification to our customer success manager. Now, what she will do is she will go ahead and start off a process inside of our HubSpot system, and it will now create a customer email journey. Or no, I'm sorry, it's a MailChimp, I think. I forgot which email. We're in between emails platforms right now. But basically what happens is there's an intro email that gets sent out to the customer introducing herself. Here are the things to know. Here's the information we need, staff, amount of PCs, etc., so that we can update billing. There also is an attachment for ACH form or the credit card authorization form. Once they go ahead and have those links or those forms that they fill out and then upload it into our SharePoint system, or if they email it to us encrypted, we basically kind of distinguish those two. Once we obtain that information, or they go into the Synchro portal, once their portal has been set up, which is done through that process, they can upload their payment information. Now we go ahead and set up the contracts. We'll go ahead and get all that automation for billing done in Contract Manager inside of the recurring invoices. Now we don't have to worry about getting paid. So that's step one. Money's key. Cash flow is everything. Step two is now the encouraging journey. And so what we then do is after 2 days, there's another email that seems to come from our customer success manager, kind of outlaying what's going on and so forth and so on, and kind of keeping them up to date on what's going on. Because what's happened to us in the past, and this is why we had to stop our sales for a while, is because our clients signed a contract and they're like, well, what the hell's happening? Where are we? What are we going to do? When are we getting onboarded? What's happening? And so they like to know what's going on. And especially if you have a lot of clients that you're onboarding, which is a great problem to have, you have to figure out how to kind of piece all that going so that it is in an automated fashion for not only on the work being done, but also on the communication process as well. And so that's a big, huge piece for that. Going back down to even your current customers, if you have a ticket that you're working on and you haven't heard from them, You should have a ticket automation that basically sends after every 3 days at a particular status, hey, we haven't heard from you in 3 days. We just want to follow up on this ticket. It shouldn't be a human being taking time out of their and going 5 minutes and trying to onboard the system from there. Same thing with onboarding a customer. They should be able to hit a link, download the software. It deploys everything you need. You do an eyeball check. Everything looks good. And then you can pass it on to the next versus scheduling a 30-minute remote session, trying to figure out everything.
Right.
You have a client that has 30 users, let's say, for example, you're losing about, I think the math roughly is about 30, a lot of time that you're going to be spending on trying to onboard that system. We had a situation where there was a client that wanted to have Microsoft 365 business software installed on all of their computers. Well, the problem is if you install it on all the computers, the real big issue is that you're spending, again, 15, 30 minutes, depending on what problems you have, the different systems, things like that, versus just giving them a link. Here's the instructions. If you have any problems, here are the ways to contact us. And then you go ahead and have that. Not only did you save yourself labor time, but also you get the bill for everything that's been set up. So those are kind of the big things, at least for me, when I hear automation, is how do I make my job less easier so that it's less burdensome for the client as well.
Great point. One of the things I wanted to touch on that you said that I'm starting to do now. Now, this is new, so it's only happened with one client. But at the last page of my contract now is that credit card and ACH authorization form. So when they sign it, when they sign the contract, the next page is that form so that they can fill that out there. This I do for the simple reason that it becomes another hassle or another step for the client to give you that information later. I want them, while they've signed the contract, to fill it out. Now, I know I'm going to get some pushback about, some people may have some feelings about, hey, I don't want to put my credit card down on this form, or I don't want to put my bank account down on this form, whatever. And I get that. And, if a customer has that hesitation, then, 9 times out of 10, I'll just say, okay, then here's the link, go put it in here. But what we should get in the habit of doing is making it mandatory that is just a step in the process, and you can't go forward without that either. It's one of those things where we all should be trying, to get out of the taking checks from clients, get out of the, we are all, ideally you want to be all ACH. That'll save you a lot of money in fees. But for sometimes that's just not, it's not convenient. And the 3% or whatever percentage you pay on the credit card fee is just the cost of doing business, right? So that it should be somehow, I'm not gonna say it should be factored into your costs or factored into your pricing. That it's a possibility that will happen. But if we don't push the client for that, we'll be chasing them for checks or chasing them for payment, which you don't want to do. So, I'm speaking from someone who still to this day has one client who is 25 minutes away from me, who calls me, who sends me a text every month that says, I have a check for you. And it drives me nuts because she refuses to do it any other way. And which means I have to end up, at some point going by there to pick it up. Because if I tell her to put it in the mail, she'll have the check for me on the 1st. She'll put it in the mail on the 21st. So I end up having to cycle my way through to pick it up. But, it's one of those older, long-time clients who've been doing it this way. And, it's just not worth the fight really for it. But going forward, I'm just saying it's just a good practice to have is to push that, try to get that done, in the beginning. Now I digress away from the automation by saying that, but I'm just saying it should be part of your process. But
I've oftentimes I have a client like that too. And I've often just wanted to go with the ACH paper, tell them to sign it, and tell them, you want to send me the check, keep sending me the check. And then I'll get it whenever. The ACH will just come out. They write the check into their little checkbook, and I shred the check every single time. Oh, I wanted to do that so many times, but you're right. Just there's a way to do these things, and
right. So
people are just with it.
That's one of those, picking up that check from her is one of those cost of doing business things. So, but again, just with the whole process though, the automation is like Paco said, it saves you a lot of time. If done right, saves you a lot of headache. Now, I do want to mention this. When we talked about setting up automation, it goes back to everything else. You have to start, I would say, when you have to have this written down, like Paco said. And my suggestion is start from the back, start from the end and work your way backwards. And what I mean by that is start with what you want the result to be, and then build your process going up. So then, so step 33 is where you start and you end at step 1, because then and then you have a better idea or a better way of filling in if you've missed any steps. And the truth is, when you first do it, you're going to miss steps. You're going to not think about certain things. So the first couple of times you do it, you have to be very conscious of it. And when you realize, we go on autopilot a lot when we do things. So we just go by the way we do it. But if you pay attention to your list and do it according to the list, and then realize, hey, it says here I'm supposed to do X, Y, Z, but I have to do ABC first. Write that down and make it now part of your automation, so that it is, so that it is in there the next time to save you, the trouble. So just, again, just, I guess the scenario is just watch it as it goes through, and then you'll figure out where you're, where you may be a little, where your deficit may be, and you can fix it from there. But that's, my take on it. I think it's, again, it's an important thing to do. And I stress this. If you are, no, I'm going to stress it for everyone. I don't care if you have no employees or you have 100 employees. You should do it. You should have that process, because it saves a lot of time. Again, saves a lot of headache. And, it's also easier to figure out if there is a problem. Going back to your automation makes it easier to figure out where the problem is, so that you can make the correction.
Right, because you can fix a machine, but you can't fix a person. Trust me,
Exactly.
right. But exactly like you said, as long as you plan for how the process is going to go through, you're going to have a better opportunity to understand where are the holes. Right. I'm even going to throw this even to a much further piece. There are a lot of resources out there that have already completed quite a bit of this. Right. So the first resource that comes to mind is the Tech Tribe. Tech Tribe has an amazing customer journey templates that you can modify as you see fit, and it will really explain how you want to kind of go through. And so it has a lot of great nuances. It has a lot of great opportunity there. So definitely head over to Tech Tribe, thetechtribe.com, I believe is the website URL. Is that correct?
Shout out to Nigel.
Yep, Nigel Moore, friend of the show here. One of the best human beings you can ever meet. So if you ever have the chance to see him or talk to him, he's a boatload of fun, great conversation, and he's always willing to give. So that's why we always love to really share on other people's hard work, and we really love the community, right? Because that's the type of people you want to keep in your circles, right? So so they got a lot of great documentation over there, but again, really trying to figure out the best result, right? And understanding how do you make sure that you get that result you want, because sometimes you may be playing with if and statements on all of these type of Zapier, IFT, if this then IFTT, and then there are other places like other automation tools that we haven't even talked about or heard about, right? So there are people that are using desktop preparation software like EmiBot, which we're hoping to have them on the show soon, that have really completely changed the game on how to prep a desktop system as well. There are those that are all in on not using third-party tools and trying to stick in their environments like Microsoft 365 and Endpoint Manager and Intune, which both are the same, and Autopilot, and really trying to drive the experience and the zero touch on, even Apple Business Manager has something similar as well. So like what we're planning to do on some of our automation is when it comes to operation and software, if I can just have an endpoint log into their Microsoft Azure Active Directory account, which is just their Microsoft 365 email address, log into the system, it has endpoint Intune because they have a Microsoft 365 premium license or whatever license they may have as far as that includes Intune.
Or you buy Intune for your account, right?
Or you buy Intune for $20. But honestly, if you're buying Intune for $20, it should either be you're in a mixed environment, which has Google or some other stuff that's going on where you can't put them on Microsoft 365. But for the $20 you're paying for Intune, you can literally get the entire Microsoft 365 business premium license, which gives you Azure Active Directory, Intune, SharePoint, the whole shebang, Exchange. So that's just my opinion. And so because of that intricacy of doing a zero deployment, having the user the ability of logging in, uninstalling all the crapware, installing all the software that's specific to that business, right? And so Zoom and your Foxit PDF readers and stuff like that, all through a login is freaking huge. Doubled on where if you have the Synchro installer or the RMM installer for all the other security stuff, that's a separate and apart to deploy. Now you've just automated twice. So now when I have a certain client that they get hired and they're working with remote people, or they've hired a remote employee, we just drop ship the laptop over to them and everything just gets on the system. But again, we get somebody to eyeball it just to make sure everything went in the properly as it should. But ideally, it should just be drop, go, and you're on your way. To take that even further, now there's a lot of these great third-party systems and Microsoft Lighthouse as well that are starting to try and manage all of the tenants and trying to figure out how to properly, make these configurations from one tenant to another, because that's really the biggest downfall with Endpoint Manager and Autopilot is you have to configure every single step, every single policy, every app that you got to upload for each individual tenant. So if you have a lot of tenants, aka a lot of customers, it's going to be a pain in the butt. But there are so many third-party systems, and again, like Lighthouse, that have it. There's Nuvalex, there is Augment, there are quite a few others that have the ability to really help secure the Microsoft 365 system, down to even having a great interface and just having like enable 2FA, doing this. Like a lot of them have a lot of great opportunities for that. So I would check out some of those vendors and really see, and that could be the next step on how you would do that automation on really getting all your stuff together.
Good man. Good point. Yeah, because it's gonna become. I gotta believe at some point Microsoft will. Well, no, it's Microsoft. They will do what they want to do, but I gotta hope that at some point Microsoft will fix that what I call quirk, so that you can at least copy over the process from one tenant to the next. I guess this image would be the word we're looking for, or export and import, whatever. But
well, my understanding, that's supposed to be Microsoft Lighthouse. I don't know if you've jumped in there, but they have a public beta that they're kind of trialing out right now for all CSPs. So, which is a whole other thing. I don't know if you've heard. I'm kind of breaking away because this is kind of like news that I heard, and I'd like to hear from Rick on his opinion. Is now I've heard that Microsoft's CSP program now has been postponed indefinitely.
Yes, indefinitely. So, they're saying January, but now is
it January?
I heard December 31st, but then I've heard indefinitely as well. So,
yeah.
Thank you, Microsoft.
Well, I mean, I think there's a couple, and again, pure speculation for anyone listening to Microsoft. We're just assuming. We don't know. We're just asking. We'd love to have you on the show if you want to clear some things up. But, from my understanding is the previous channel chief made a significant dent inside of what he felt would be the future of Microsoft, is what I understand. And with him now having left, Microsoft, they're kind of trying to figure out what's going on. And I even heard on a podcast, and I forgot which podcast it was, is whoever takes on that new channel chief position is going to have to probably go into an apology tour to really say, I'm sorry, here's what we're doing, etc. So I am assuming, or my cynical assumption brain would go, is I'm wondering if they've paused this indefinitely to revisit, to really relook at this program and understand, is this the right way to go? Now, I don't know, but I've also heard that like there's been so much movement in this progress as well. Like the machine's going, Like there's no way to apparently stop it, but there's a way of like trying to possibly change out the engine parts as the train is going. But it's going to be interesting. I think a lot of people are just upset, and rightfully so with a lot of things. I think that obviously the new partner program and the new way of licensing is coming about has kind of really ruffled a lot of feathers, which, automation, if you're using a distributor to purchase these, they should just pop into your account, right? So something to talk to your cloud distributor about, whoever you may be using. But going back to Lighthouse, my understanding is the public preview for Lighthouse for all CSP users, which means cloud specialists, cloud sales specialist provider, whatever the case may be.
Cloud service
something like that. Yeah. So if you're reselling Microsoft 365 licenses, you ideally should be able to have access to this. And I played around with it before and it had some cool stuff going on. But my understanding that this is how we would be able to do that. But, maybe I'll talk to Matt Lee and see if I can get something out of him, because I know he's on the Microsoft advisory board. So
let me ask you this question. I'm going to go back now to Microsoft, because it is relevant to this conversation.
Okay.
And then I'm going to talk about the partner program, which is supposed to be changing again as well. Now, I'm asking you this as just, I know you keep your ear low to the ground. And if you know the answer,
I know some things.
If you know the answer to this, one, I've heard that this new partner program only affects people in the silver and gold level. This whole new point scenario, where you get points, based on the tenants you have or the tenants you manage, or new tenants. Sometimes they say new tenants are worth more than old tenants or current tenants, some crap. But that it doesn't affect you if you're just at the partner level. Now, do you know any?
What I understand, and I'm trying to pull from my memory, because I usually get a lot of my information on this particular topic from Channel Pro Network. And so Channel Pro Network's podcast, they usually have quite a few good guests that talk about this. And they've had some guests talk about CSPs. There were some guests from AppRiver. They've had some Microsoft MVPs. And from one of the episodes I remember, and again, I could be completely wrong, so I'll recheck this episode and update the next episode if I have to retract anything, is they are doing away with all of the tiers. There's not going to be any tiers anymore. So whether you are on Action Pack, Silver, Gold, those are going away in place of this point system. And I haven't checked the point system and I haven't gone into it to see the new way it is. But from my understanding is that this is now going from a new sales situation to a new sales and consumption model, where they want you to have access to across all of the portfolio, and that's what will drive your score. So Azure, Windows Virtual Desktops, Microsoft Dynamics, all of their other products. And the complaint I heard is a lot of the smaller guys who normally would either be on Silver or just maybe getting Action Pack are not able to, or have no desire to do Azure or anything like that, will not be able to even get into the minimum point system to get any type of like, I'm a Microsoft partner. You're just basically someone that may be like purchasing licenses directly versus the client purchasing directly. So that's what I understand is happening with the licensing, with the new partner program on that twist. I would love to get Dave Siebert on. He's a Microsoft MVP, well known in the community. He knows a lot about this. So maybe I'll reach out to him, or if he listens to the show, I'd love to have him. He runs SMB Tech Fest, so that's another great event as well. So maybe I can get him to come on, or I'll poke Ken Patterson over at PAX 8 to kind of help us understand how this all works out. Because the reason why this is so significant is because Microsoft, when you hit one of these levels, silver or gold, they would actually physically pay you in rebates. And that's how you made your money. So you could give discount on licenses, or your less to no margin in your licenses. this is what allowed you to help get that. And from what I understand is that if you renewed before whatever the date is, which now sounds like either indefinite or December, you could still continue to get those rebates. But my understanding was like this was like before they extended it was the last year to renew to get that and go from there. And I think silver was something like $1,800 a year or something like that, or maybe something more. But these are all basically the ability of having software internally, reselling instead, and again the rebates of Microsoft actually paying you for all the licenses that you've sold. So something to look into. Again, more guests for a Resource Thursday to kind of have them pop on and talk a little bit more about. But so that hopefully will answer your question on the Microsoft stuff.
Yeah,
what was the other question you had there?
No, that was it.
Oh, that was it. Okay.
Yeah, so, I was curious, and because I'm thinking Microsoft has a way of starting something down one path and then they reverse. I remember, what was it, 2 years ago, Action Pack was going away.
Oh, don't get me started with that.
So then this year it's CSP.
Well, so what happened there for anyone that doesn't know, and so we'll call this automations, Microsoft, and everything in between, is wow, so annoying. So 2 years ago, we had purchased, we were purchasing internal licenses for ourselves through our distributor. And so we had a new hire that came on and we had to get the licensing. We had to get Microsoft Business Voice because we were on their phone system at the time. We had to get Microsoft, I think we were on Business Standard at the time. And so when we went to go to PAX 8, we were PAX 8 was our distributor. The license wouldn't go through. And I was like, well, what the heck is going on? So we reached out to our rep. And so our rep told us like, we're sorry, Microsoft is starting to enforce this. We really weren't supposed to do this, as far as Microsoft didn't like it, but now they're really enforcing it. Is CSPs cannot buy their own licenses from the distributor. So you have to either go to Action Pack or buy them direct. You can't resell it, because what was happening is that, if you sold your licenses, you were purchasing them as a discount. You weren't paying full price for the thing. So if you wanted a discount, you had to go through Action Pack or one of their CSP levels. So I was super annoyed, and I was like, all right, whatever. So I went with Action Pack. That was, at the time was the best option for us. 2 weeks later or a week later, we were telling you about this, and you're like, yeah, I got the email saying we could do it again. So Microsoft went back, and I was like, mother flower, because I just bought this year or whatever. And it ended up being a better deal for us. At the time we had 5 employees. We were growing at the time. So, and even now, like, I got to renew Action Pack again. This is probably the last year I'll be able to do so, with adding additional licenses as well. So that's really where we've kind of come down to, in my honest opinion. And it worked out, right? So, it sucked, but it was a good option for us at the time. And with anything with change, change sucks, but if you make the most out of it, you can become very profitable as well.
Yeah. And you just have to anticipate it, because it's going to come anyway. Things are going to change, and how we do things and how we look at it it's all just going to evolve. So,
yep. So the only action item that I will say for everyone is, if you're trying to figure out, all right, I'm tired of being tired. I need to figure out something. Like John likes to say, is just do that 1%. What's going to help you to do that 1% that'll make life being a little bit easier? Can you set up something where you don't have to install something twice? Is there a way that you can send over an email template that you can maybe schedule? Is there maybe a signature or a pre-populated document that you can do where you just hit a button? Like in our example, we have HubSpot, or if you have Synchro, you can use your Can templates. I forgot what it was called, but you have the ability to copy that into the ticket system and pre-write those. Saves you a couple minutes. As you kind of go more and more, these things start to add up, and then you have all kinds of stuff. Can response. Thank you. And you have that ability, right? Work with what you have. And that's the biggest thing I can stress for. There is a lot of shiny toys out there, a lot of shiny things. You're going to want to spend more money on it, or you want to spend your time to move to something, right? Now, I serve on a couple of advisory councils. One advisory council, I have Brian Weiss over at iTech. You may have heard him on some of the other channels. And one of his biggest things is tech debt. right? And and my understanding, and hopefully Brian can correct me or come on the show and talk about it, is tech debt is basically software, all these vendors that have such old code that they're never going to update, or they have these processes that'll never be helpful for you in that realm, right? And there are a lot of systems that have that, right? Like you can't succeed as an MSP or an IT service provider because that software will never do what you need it to do. So you have to move on, right? And that's with anything. But what I want to say is that if you don't have the resources, if you do have the time, just be careful with your time, because your time could be used on different things. And if you decide to move from one thing to another, chasing a nickel, trying to make the dollar cents make sense, really start to think, do you really need to move? Because there may be this nice portal that you can go ahead and log in there. There might be a better ticketing system that you might feel that is more modern. Have a conversation with who you have as tool set. You may only have 2 tools that you're using right now. You may only have an RMM and an AV, and you're trying to figure out what's next. Speak to one of us. Talk to go to a virtual conference, a webinar. Have it where you can talk to someone.
Post it in the forum. Post it in the Facebook group.
Post it on the online community group. Yep. I mean, get the information of like, look, this is where I am. I know I need to figure out what I need to do afterwards, or I need to figure out to do something with what I have. There may be someone that had your same problem, and they can help you with that piece. Ask for help. Don't make rash decisions. Don't spend your hard-earned dollars for something that you may not need because it may already do it, or you can get to the point where it can get to the flow, objective result that you're looking for. And you don't have to waste so much time, because I know a lot of people that have moved from PSAs to PSA, and they're halfway through and they said, oh, this sucks, and they gotta rewind that back, right? I'm guilty of that. I was a Google house for 5 years. I shifted to Microsoft. I hated it. It was like, and I know you remember this.
I do remember this.
I was on it for 2 months, hated it, went back. Well, lasted maybe another 3 months, went back to Microsoft, and I've been on it since. So now I've caused myself all that pain going back and forth, but I've seen the light on how I can make it work for me. And all it was is a conversation I needed to have with someone to make it work. Might be the reverse for you. Maybe you have Google and you're thinking about switching to Microsoft. Talk to someone who's a Google admin. I bet you'll have many different great opportunities to work with that than moving over to Microsoft, and vice versa. The grass may be always greener, but you don't need to spend all that time to kind of do all that. That's my opinion.
Sometimes it costs you more than it's worth. And to piggyback on Paco's point, and we'll I'll leave it. I'll try to make this brief. Know what you want. Like a lot of times we say something sucks, but we don't know what we really want to get out of it. And I've been guilty of this, right? If something, because we're like our clients, we want something, we just want it all to work, right?
Right.
And what I've learned, and I read this somewhere, that we're just as guilty. We don't use more than 40% of what our tools we have are capable of. Like when the tools we get, we only go and do what we wanted to do. And we don't necessarily, or do what we think we wanted to do. We don't necessarily explore any other thing. So, and I'll just say it this way, and just ask yourself this question. Of some of your tools, how many of you've used and you've come to somebody else who's doing something, you'd be like, I didn't know we could do that. And it happens, right? So you've missed something there. So I would say 2 things. 1, know where you want to end up, because your tool may do it now. And just because tool B, you're on tool A and tool B advertises that they do it, does not mean that tool A doesn't do it. So just know where you want to end up. And then when you know where you want to end up or what you want to do, go seek the help. I call Paco all the time particularly for things in synchro, right? If I want to do something and that doesn't seem right, I'm going to call him and say, hey, can you do this? Or do you do this with synchro? And he'll say yes, no, or I don't even know if we could do that. I didn't know we could do that. Now, we've both learned, he's learned something or I've learned something. And so that's what the Facebook group is for. I'm sure every tool that you have out there has some kind of Facebook group or some kind of forum that you can go to and ask questions. As long as you have, pretty decent group of people, people are more than happy to answer your question. And people like to show off their knowledge of what they do know, when it comes to things like that. And you will learn and gain a plethora of knowledge and skill by doing that. So again, as Paco say, don't be so quick to jump ship, from what you have until you're absolutely sure that what you have, doesn't fit for you. And I know all this sometimes, and I'm going to say this, I am biased of certain things. So there are companies out there that will have everything I want, but they've pissed me off and I won't do business with them. Right. And, that happens. And you'll hear me say, nope, I'm never going back to them again. I used them and they screwed me for this and they screwed me for that. And, you guys have heard me say this before. My biggest thing is support. When I need help, I don't need to be bounced around the globe to get help. From an email to a phone call to a guy emailing me at 2:30 a.m. when it's clear that I'm on the East Coast and he wants to know if we can do a remote session now, which has happened to me. So so just know what you want and then go seek to see if your tool does that. Because 9 times out of 10, all of these tools are basically the same. They just some have prettier faces than the others, really. And they, for the most part, they do the same things. They get the same purpose. Yeah, some are a little better than others, but it costs you time, money, and headaches when you have to switch, particularly something like your RMM or your PSA, because not only is it moving everything there, it's now a new learning curve to learn everything in the new setup. And then if, God forbid, you get there, like some people I know, and realize, hey, I don't want to be here. I got to go back where I was. So, that happens as well. So that is my tip of the day, I guess.
Sure. No, I mean, there's quite a few things on what you said. First, twofold. If you're unsure about what you have, you want to know more about what you have, reach out to the vendor. And I'm talking about PSA and RMM. Let's make it specific. If you want to know more about your PSA and your RMM, email support, or if you have your rep and you know who your rep is, email them today. That's your homework, that you want to figure out what training sessions they have available, whether they point you to YouTube, whether they give you a demo that they have the resources for, if they have webinars that they schedule every other week. Get a refresher, attend those before you jump ship. That's my first thing. 2, schedule that call. If you have any gripes, if you are mad about something that's not working, reach out to them if you haven't already. We know that there are probably some things where you're just like, I've already reached out to them for 3 years. I'm done with them. Okay, that's different. But if you haven't reached out to them for them to help you with either an alternative or a workaround, that's on you to figure, to get that option or for them to tell you that, right? If you don't like the workaround, then that makes sense. So I implore you to do those 2 things. And that's your takeaway in your homework. I want you to email us that you did this. And if it worked out for you, I'd like to hear about it. If we're full of it, I want to hear about it too and say that this was bad advice. So that's 1. 2, definitely leverage your online communities. We've mentioned quite a few. We have ours, which if you contribute and help support the show, you gain access to it. And supporting the network, supporting us, MSP Unplugged, either you're a Patreon contributor, you purchase a Tech on Unplugged ticket, or both. That supports us. That helps us continue to provide great content for you all, provide great events, bring people together, and kind of go from that front. We've talked about Tech Tribe. We've talked about other Facebook groups that you might be on, LinkedIn groups, whatever is your jam. It might be Reddit, whatever the case may be. There's help out there. What is it?
I said, don't be Reddit. I'm just playing.
No, I've heard it. I'm not a Reddit guy. I mean, I'll go there to like watch and listen and like read some stuff, but I'm not a big Reddit guy. That's not my go-to. My go-to is the Facebook groups or some of the online communities like ASCII. Channel Pro is building out their community groups, things of that nature. So these are the places that I like to see, watch. There's always a place for you to ask for help. If at all else, if you want to hear from 2 talking heads that comes to you every Tuesday and Thursday, you can email us. You can go on our website or you can go at info@mspunplugged.com. We're more than happy to talk to you, shoot the stuff back and forth, really just figuring out, if you just have questions or just kind of lost and you don't know what to do. With all that being said, that's what I implore you. And then my last thing is, if you're thinking about coming to TechCon Unplugged, again, it's 2 months away. You got to book your flights. You got to figure out your plan to drive up, purchase your ticket. We got a lot of campaigns out there. We're getting a lot of notice. We're getting a lot of steam. For those that have were with us last year and the previous years, and you're thinking about coming, as Jeff used to like to say, if the sound of my voice and you're hearing the plan come to the show, you should purchase your ticket now. We got a lot of great stuff lined up for you. We've really improved this year by bringing back the breakout sessions and learning labs. And I say bring back, but you know what I mean, from a small peer community group that we've had for all of our listeners. We got quite a few great vendors, new ones that are coming on that we have not had a chance to talk to in previous years that I'm super excited about. And we have 4 great vendors that are sponsoring our 2 Friday night and Saturday night socials. It's going to be a great time. So I implore you, head over to TechCon Unplugged. We got a lot of great stuff happening for you guys. We're hoping we're going to blow you away this year, but we need you to come. So if you're interested, if this is something that you want to be a part of, and again, our community is growing. I think we've been at this now 7 months. And when you know how many new members have joined our community group, we've had a lot of great influx of people coming and messaging us. It's really great to know that we're providing you value, and we hope that we can continue to do that every week as well. And I'll just give it over to Rick.
Okay. And I'm going to close with 2 things. Definitely. I'm echoing Paco's sentiments on TechCon Unplugged. We'd love to see you there. Secondly, we do tell you all the time to email us or, send a message if you have any questions, comments, concerns, things like that. And we do our best to get back to you as soon as we can. But I'm going to make an on-air apology to Justine Anderson, because somehow I got an email from you on 6:30 and I did not see it until this evening. So I do not know why. And it's clicked as read, which means I somehow was skimming and missed it. So Justine, I will be answering your this is a follow-up email. I did answer her initial email that she sent, but her reply to me, I missed. So Justine, I do apologize to you for that. And I'm on there saying, hey, I'm a doofus for that one. But we do appreciate your support to everyone there. And, again, as we wind up, I'll tell you all again, tune in every Tuesday and Thursday. You can watch the video podcast on youtube.com/MSP Unplugged, facebook.com/MSP Unplugged. Paco's going to tell you the LinkedIn link.
LinkedIn.com and search MSP Unplugged, because no one in their right mind will be typing in LinkedIn.com/company/MSP-Unplugged. So just search for us. You'll find us with a little microphone logo as you see here and over there.
Hey, or #MSP Unplugged. That'll get you there as well. I just learned that yesterday.
Nice.
But anyway, on any of those platforms, we need you to like, subscribe, hit the notification button to be notified when a new episode is available. Now, we are on the go, and this is how I listen to us to critique myself when I'm doing my walks in the morning. But we are on the go on your favorite podcatchers. We are on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. So, you can catch us there, listen to us. You don't have to see Paco's lovely face and my so-so face. Anyway, but
radio we have.
I do want to thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time on MSP Unplugged.